All right.
We live.
Good evening, and welcome to Real Fellas Talk Sports. I'm your host for tonight. I'm Larry Abels, and I'm joined with my usual panel of experts. First, let me introduce Chuck Snowden. How you doing, Chuck?
Hey, Larry, I'm great. You know, I love happy hour. 8 to 9 every Wednesday. I can't wait.
Me too. Glad to have you. And from the great state of Indiana, Mr. Burnett. How are you, Dave?
I'm doing fine from the sports capital of the United States and the world. Thank you.
And last but not least, Go Earl. How you doing, Earl?
I'm doing great, Larry. Happy to be alive and excited to chat some of the hot sports topics with some of my colleagues.
I see Earl didn't lose his contract with Adidas, did he, Larry?
He's a sports doctor, okay?
Oh, okay. So we're clowning early in the show today. That's good. It's good to know that we're clowning early.
Well, let's jump right into the NFL without further delay. Few interesting football games we're going to talk about. The first one, Buffalo and Minnesota. Chuck, was that the game of the year so far?
I swear, Larry, I love that game so much on so many levels. And I know we're going to talk about it tonight, but I agree with you. That was one of my best favorite games in the last few years. It's a great game. Great game. In overtime.
Did Minnesota win that or did Buffalo lose it?
I think Buffalo might have lost it. They had the lead going into the fourth quarter. The quarterback had 3 turnovers in the fourth quarter in overtime, 2 interceptions and a fumble. Okay. So I would say they lost it.
David, what's your position on it? Minnesota good? That good? What are they? They only lost one game, right?
They've lost one game.
Yeah.
It makes a difference. It's funny how we look at the NFL, 1 or 2 or 3 losses. Buffalo now has 3 losses. That would put them out of the college football playoffs, wouldn't it? Anyway, that said, that was a great game. It was a great game. And Minnesota is much better than people give credit to. And Kirk Cousins, boy, is he abused as a football player. He's only collected about $200-300 million. He's pretty good. He's pretty good. He's not great, but he's pretty good. Minnesota is much better than we thought.
Do you think there's reason for him to be abused, Dave?
If you play with the Washington football team, if that's where you matriculated from, sometimes you catch hell.
Take it easy.
Earl.
Yes, Larry.
Has Kirk Cousins won you over? Did he show up at this game against Buffalo, or did Buffalo lose it?
No, Kirk Cousins has not won me over. But to be honest, Kirk Cousins could never win me over. Minnesota, they are pretty good. I thought it was a good game. I didn't think it was one of the greatest games like you guys were touting. I thought the game was a bit misplayed. I think it was a bit sloppily played, a couple of crucial turnovers in crucial parts of the game. So I didn't give it a 5-star game. I thought it was entertaining, though. No, Kirk Cousins cannot win me over. The Vikings are better than I thought, but they're still not that good. I still think Buffalo's a better team than them, even though Minnesota just beat them. So.
I agree with you on that, Earl. I tell you what happened. One of the things that happened in that game, and I think we all can agree, it'd be interesting to see our reaction to it. But I thought that guy Jefferson had one of the great catches, and I thought the catch was even better than the Odell Beckham catch that he made when he was with the Giants, the one-handed thing down the sideline. I thought that catch that Jefferson made in the fourth quarter was amazing.
Well, I was going to ask you guys, Earl just mentioned that it was some poor plays, but weren't there some great catches in that game?
Oh, my God.
Jefferson wasn't the only one that did.
Diggs had 12 catches for 128 yards. Jefferson had 10 catches for 193 yards and 1 touchdown. I mean,
were they all great? Were they all great catches?
No, well, Dave, let me ask David something. Did Diggs' catch have been the highlight catch? Had Jefferson not made one? Didn't Diggs make one that was pretty good?
He did.
Probably so. They were great catches, but as much as we're getting all caught up over Odell Beckham's catch of a number of years ago and Justin Jefferson's catch, Tyree's catch in the Super Bowl against his helmet remains the #1 catch of all time.
I can see an argument for that.
Yeah.
But I thought
that was a
Earl,
big
you
catch.
disagree? You disagree, Earl?
Yes.
Okay.
That Tyree catch was just a luck buffoon catch. He just happened to catch the dog.
In the Super Bowl.
That was not a great catch. That catch did not compare to that catch that Jefferson made or Odell Beckham's catch, in my opinion.
So did you guys see the catch that Diggs made Sunday?
Yeah.
I mean, it's right up there.
I agree with you. Again,
I saw you make a catch like that down Kimmy.
I knew
that catch was all right, man.
I knew that was coming.
Oh, so because I made a catch like that, it wasn't a big deal.
I'm just saying. I'm saying I've seen something like that before. That's all.
I thought Diggs had a great catch.
The fact that here's the question about Josh Allen, who I like, and I've been like, I think the panel has liked them all year long, or like that Buffalo team. But here's the question: he had 3 turnovers in the fourth quarter in overtime. So here's the question: like, he tries to make the big splash plays because he can make them. He's, and there's nothing that he thinks he can't do. And will that get him in the long run? Does he need to dial it back a little bit and stop being such a riverboat gambler or what have you, because he's so talented that he can do those things? Or or do you want to not hold him back and let him keep doing
First of all, before we get started on Josh Allen, and I think he's played well the last couple of years, but Josh Allen is Cam Newton. Cam Newton won the MVP. Mm-hmm. They play exactly the same way. Now, Cam probably was not quite as accurate, but he was more accurate as a collegiate player than Josh Allen was, who was a 50% passer in college.
Well, we're gonna keep
Cam Newton. We don't even talk about Cam Newton anymore. So if Josh Allen doesn't get it together, he'll be on the Cam Newton train. And that's no longer in the NFL.
Is there a difference between Josh Allen and Cam Newton?
Well,
Cam Newton did have a great year.
Cam Newton has been the MVP.
He won the MVP.
He's been the MVP.
They're not the same type of quarterback, first of all.
And Cam Newton has been in the Super Bowl. So
let all respond to this.
They're still not the same type of quarterback. They're not. That was in my opinion, I don't even understand you bring those names up when you're comparing somebody.
Let's make the comparison. They're both about 6'5". They're both about 240, 50 pounds.
Right.
They both run on quarterback keepers, not scrambles, runs. There's a lot of similarity between Josh Allen and Cam Newton. They both
not as far as the performance
have big arms.
Not as far as the performance or the skills. Kelly can throw.
Well, wait a minute.
This guy from Buffalo can throw.
Okay, here we go.
Cam Newton can never throw.
We're going to settle this right now. Chuck, similar or different?
I think they are similar. I understand what David is saying about the physical stature and the big arm and the ability to run the football. And he's a tough guy too. He's not afraid. He'll stick his head in there. But I think he's a more accurate quarterback, and I think he's a good quarterback. I think he's got some Aaron Rodgers knows what he's doing kind of thing. And remember, he's young. This is only his 3rd or 4th year.
Well, when Cam Newton
still can be an
MVP.
Year, I thought he was on a trajectory to be an MVP this year.
Okay, so we're going to move on to the Dallas game.
He was trajectorying into MVP.
All right, we're going to move on to the Dallas. Chuck just mentioned Aaron Rodgers. Is Aaron Rodgers back on the right track? And we'll start with you, David. The victory over Dallas.
No. He threw 20 passes. No. He needs to start playing differently. He's 38 years old. He's lost a little bit on his fastball. No.
So you weren't impressed with him against Dallas's defense?
No, not really.
Earl, what did you think of the Cowboys in Green Bay game?
I didn't think much of it, and I don't think. I know the Green Bay and Aaron Rodgers not back. They're just not that good. They're just not that good this year. So they're just not that good. They're waiting for some miracle comeback. That's not gonna happen. They're done. If you got an extra fork, let me use it so I can stick it in it. Right? They're done.
Chuck, your feelings about Dallas and Green Bay?
I thought they came up with a formula to beat Dallas, meaning he didn't turn the ball over. They ran the ball a lot better and a lot more effectively, and they kind of bullied Dallas, quite honestly. And then that kid, number 9, the wide receiver with the 3 touchdown catches, he played a lot better than he had all year. So
you mean like he actually caught the ball?
He actually caught the ball, right, right. So I thought at least for that day, that game, they had they put together a nice formula in Lambeau to beat Dallas. Dallas's defense wasn't like it had been playing all year. It wasn't as strong. They didn't get the sacks. Parsons, I didn't really see Parsons much in the backfield, etc.
I thought the second half they made adjustments because I thought Dallas was going to win that game at first.
Yeah. Well, they had a 14-point lead going into the fourth quarter.
Yeah. First time in like 190 games
195 that they had lost, right?
Okay, so now we're going to move on to Earl's favorite team, pulled off the upset Monday night.
Well, hold on. Before we leave there, though, Larry, real quick, one of my buddies who's a Dallas fan, he thought that Dallas should have kicked the field goal instead of going for it on 4th down. I don't know if the panel had any thoughts or opinions about that, but he was making a big deal about that McCarthy should be fired and blah, blah, blah.
That's a bit dramatic,
I know, that's what I thought.
I thought he could have considered punting the ball, though, because
right.
they were about been like a 55, 56-yard field goal. I can see why they didn't.
He was kicking it from the 35, so whatever that math would work out to be.
Yeah.
It was 35. And again, of course, I think if you're paying a guy $40 million, Dak, and you got 3rd and 3 twice, 3rd and 3 and 4th and 3, and you can't get me a yard in a big overtime. Yeah. So I want to put it on Dak.
Okay.
Anyway, I'm sorry. I
want Earl to get to talk about his favorite team. Well, one I shouldn't say his favorite team. I apologize for his doctor. But a team that I know that you have a unique insight on, the Commanders. How did they beat Philadelphia?
They out physical them. They beat them up. They beat them up. That's all they did. You know. Okay.
David, did you see that game?
It can't get no simpler than that. They just beat them up. That's all.
I did see the game. It's the NFL. Any given Sunday, another NFL team can beat another NFL team, even if they are lost every game. It's possible. And that's just what happens. There's only been one NFL team that's gone undefeated. One. The best team of all time, the 85 Bears, lost the game and lost big to the Miami Dolphins in 1985. So you're going to lose a game from time to time.
Chuck, what was the secret to the Commanders' success Monday night?
Well, I think, look, Philly had 3 turnovers. They had 3 fumbles.
Actually 4, but
that's right. They had the interception and the 3 fumbles, right?
Yeah. End of the game.
That play. That throwaway play. So I think the turnovers hurt them. But I do think Earl is right. I think they, too, Washington's defense has been pretty stout the last 3 or 4 games. And ever since our friend Heineke has gotten in there, he hasn't made the big turnovers. And we've been, I think the time difference was 40 minutes to 20. We had the ball for 40 minutes. They had the ball for only 20 minutes. Heineke didn't throw a touchdown, and he had 1 interception. So it wasn't like he set the world on fire, but we did have ball control. And we kept that Philly team off the field.
Yeah, a big part about them when they can – I don't think the defense played that well, but by keeping Philly off the field, they were kind of protected a little bit. And they was able to run the ball on them. I think Earl hit on something when he said they bullied them because they just ran it down their throat.
I agree. The turnovers too. I mean, the turnovers were,
Well, yeah, they had a little help from their friends, the referees.
Oh, how about on that last play? You mean are you specifically talking about the last play on the
well, one of the fumbles with the guy
face mask?
Yes, that was big.
Yeah.
Now Philly had one where they had an unforced error where the guy caught the ball and got up and started running.
That was a good play by the defense to smack the ball down and knock it out.
Yeah, and a poor play by him. Okay. Top 5 teams in the NFL. Earl, who you got?
Wow.
I know this is a tough one. It's really a tough one.
We've had a lot of upsets this week, so
I know it's a tough one.
I would say Kansas City. Buffalo still. Not a lot of good teams out there. Yeah.
I know.
I gotta pass on this one. They're not a lot of good. I don't think they're five.
You can't do teams like Minnesota who beat Buffalo.
I don't look at them as one of the 5 top teams.
Oh. All right.
Okay, Philadelphia, Kansas City.
Okay.
Philadelphia, Kansas City.
Say Buffalo. Give me 2 more.
Miami.
Okay.
Giants. No, I ain't gonna say the Giants. They got a good record. They ain't one of the top 5 teams. So. That's all I can name. 4 names.
Okay. David, who do you got?
Philadelphia still is the number 1 team in the NFL, followed by the Minnesota Vikings, the Kansas City Chiefs, the Miami Dolphins, and the Seattle Seahawks.
Ooh.
You know they lost this weekend, right?
Every team loses in the NFL.
Or maybe you didn't know that. Okay.
I guess he told you.
I'm very much aware that they lost.
Okay.
That was a good game too, by the way. Tampa Bay and Seattle in
Yeah.
Germany.
Chuck, your top 5.
Philly, Kansas City, the Vikings, Buffalo, and the Baltimore Ravens.
So I noticed all of you mentioned Buffalo. So my next question is,
I didn't mention Buffalo.
I'm sorry, you didn't. You sure didn't. Is Buffalo the best team in the AFC East? Are they going to win? Yeah, are they the best team in the AFC East?
I think they are. And I'm going to tell you one more quick thing about Buffalo. They played the Rams, the Titans, Miami, Ravens, Steelers, Chiefs, Green Bay, Jets, and the Vikings. It seems to me every week they play a good team, unlike the Vikings.
They have
and they lost 21-19, 20-17, and 33-30 in overtime when they should have won because the guy fumbled the ball at the goal line. So my point is they could be undefeated.
So remember, I asked a question where they were the best team in the AFC East, right?
Yes.
You know their record in the AFC East? Do you know what their record in the AFC East is? 0-2. Because 2 of those teams you named, Miami and New York Jets.
Oh, the Jets are. I still think Buffalo's the best team. And their secondary's been out most of the year. And by the way, I think Buffalo's the best team in the East.
David, what do you think? They're the best team in the AFC East?
No. Let me just say that firmly. No. Until Josh Allen gets whatever repaired that he needs to get repaired. You know, it's funny. Once you make a determination that somebody is good, Buffalo now has reached exalted status. They're pretty good. They've got one of the great quarterbacks. Yeah, and it's hard for people to shake that misreality because it's not reality.
Not reality. So
Josh Allen. Let me finish.
Now, Josh Allen. You don't consider the teams they played, like Chuck said, something that.
No, I'm looking at the guy who's supposed to be in the lead running for the MVP, who has thrown multiple game-crushing interceptions, who fumbled on the 1 yard line, fumbled on the 1 yard line. Those are critical crunching mistakes.
Right.
And so
the questions about their team.
Well, I'm answering it the way I want to answer. Let me just say
it's not like you're answering a different question about Josh Allen.
Josh Allen is the team.
Oh, okay.
He is the team. And that's the reason why everybody is on their jock, is because of Josh Allen. And Josh Allen has already played in the last several games some of the worst quarterback play that we've seen this year from a so-called top-tier quarterback. The mistakes he's made have been devastating.
So
Devastating.
If they're not the top team, who's the top team in the AFCs? Who's the best team in that league?
Miami.
Okay.
Miami.
And you picked them on
They're
your
on
list.
the run.
Earl, Buffalo, best team in the AFCs?
No.
Who's the best team? Who's the best team there?
Miami.
Okay. Something to think about, because they haven't lost a game when their quarterback was healthy.
No, I agree.
Yeah.
But their schedule gets a little tougher coming up, and then they have to start traveling to some of these tough cities in the wintertime. And I think a game that we should circle is Miami versus the 49ers, because they're one of my 49ers is a sleeper team that you should keep an eye on. And I think that's going to be a big game for Miami. Miami's schedule is going to get a little different now.
Well, speaking of sleeper teams, that's going to be one of the things on the question. So why don't we just go right there? What's a team that you think might be dangerous in the playoffs that we haven't normally mentioned among the top five? And Chuck, we'll start with you.
The San Francisco 49ers.
Okay. Why do you feel that way?
Because I think their defense is solid. Now that they've picked up McCaffrey, they've got a lot more versatility on offense. And I just think they're good. I really do.
Earl, you got a sleeper team?
No, all the teams I thought might have a possibility to be a sleeper team, I trash. So no, I don't have a sleeper team.
What about you, David?
The team that I was critical of at the beginning of this season, I opened my eyes. I say the sleeper team that you still need to watch out for, the Seahawks. I was very critical of them at the beginning of the year, but they've shown that they've got some really good young players, and they got a quarterback who's playing at a near MVP level.
Yep.
Yeah, I think their coach is doing a pretty good job there too.
He is.
And my picks would have been Seattle and Baltimore, because even though I know one of you mentioned Baltimore as your top team.
I don't know that Baltimore is a sleeper, because they're pretty good.
But we haven't normally mentioned them as our one of our top teams. We've kind of left them off.
I've mentioned them several weeks in a row because I believe they're coming.
Yeah, they are a sleeper team, because Lord knows he don't have no help. So they are a sleeper team.
Well, they added Roquan in the middle for that defense. And
they don't have any offensive help. Let me be a little bit more specific.
Well, they lost. I guess early in the season they were going back and forth, but they've seemed to righted their ship now.
Now, one more thing about Josh before we leave. Look, he had 85 yards rushing too, David. So he had over 330 yards. What I'm saying is, I acknowledge with you that we've got to cut out the mistakes. I agree. That was the point I was making originally, and I think it's because he has so much talent. He thinks he can get away with it, but I think that's adjustable. I really do. But we'll find out. We will find out.
No,
and he's not just a flash in the pan. He had a good year last year, and that Kansas City Buffalo game was one of the best playoff games of the season.
Right. I understand what David was saying as far as the physical similarities. Of course they're physical. I don't want nobody to think I'm crazy, and I hate to say this. I don't know why I hate to say it, but I will say it. They're not even. Even though this the guy from North Carolina won MVP. He's not even in the same league with Allen as far as skills as quarterback. They're not even on the same level.
No, Cam was really good. Earl. Cam was good.
In my opinion, Cam Newton is not on the same level as the quarterback for Buffalo.
That Carolina team never had players.
Can I have an opinion? Can I have an opinion?
Yes. Well, I can challenge it.
He was pretty good that year. He won the MVP. He was pretty good. He never had the accuracy. This guy Allen. You got to keep your eye on this guy the whole entire time. He don't have the accuracy that he would never ever be the passer that the quarterback for Buffalo is. Never.
I think you got to break this down a little bit. When I mentioned Cam Newton, the Cam Newton comparison with Josh Allen is year to year. Cam Newton was pretty damn good from age 20, 21 to age 27. And then he kind of dropped off the cliff once he started getting injured.
Yeah.
And then he's completely dropped off the cliff, and nobody even talks about him anymore except David Burnett. Josh Allen could drop off the cliff too if he keeps running like a fullback, fumbling on the goal line, throwing back-breaking interceptions.
Okay, we're gonna move on. I got one more football question. Who's the top non-quarterback offensive player of the year this year? I'll start with you, Chuck.
Jefferson with Minnesota.
David, who you have?
Justin Jefferson.
Earl, top offensive player this year, non-quarterback.
I would say Tyreek Hill.
That's a good one too.
Yeah, all good choices.
A hell of a good one.
Good choice.
Why are most of the panels, two of the panels saying Jefferson is because of that catch? Is that the if that catch had not been made, would this guy be one you name? I'm just asking. That's all.
Okay, let me respond. They're 8 or 9-1. He is in terms of catching, in terms of yardage. I think him and Tyreek are tied at the top. And I think he's a big part of that offense. And they're 9-1. And we know that the quarterback ain't great.
I mean, everyone has said glowing things about Jefferson all year long. It's been consistent. He's great. No one's never, until this catch was made the other day, has put him like at the top of the situation. That was the only reason why I was asking. No one's never said, Jefferson's number one. We said, well, who's number one? No one never said him.
That was just my
But they see a catch anyway, and now it's Jefferson without a doubt.
So Earl is
Earl, I think your point is a good point, but most of us respond that way when a great player does something superlative beyond expectations is when you kind of latch onto him. We would not be talking about Odell Beckham Jr. without that one catch. That one single catch took him into stardom. If he had not made that particular catch, he would just be another good receiver. Sometimes it takes something extraordinary to bring you into consciousness beyond just the few people that know you.
I got you. That sounds great. That's all fan and dandy. That catch does not make his stats better than Tyreek Hill's stats.
I agree. I don't disagree.
So I don't know how you couldn't say Tyreek when this guy.
How many touchdowns has Tyreek Evan? How many has he scored?
Because Jefferson only has 4.
I think Tyreek Hill has 1 touchdown. 1.
Wow.
This whole year?
1 touchdown.
Wow. Now that's a lot.
So we're going to move on to NCAA football.
Hey, and we will. But one last thing can you believe that Burrows, when he was at LSU, he had Chase and Jefferson were his 2 wide receivers? How strong was that?
Championship too.
How strong was that LSU?
Jefferson wasn't even starting.
Yes, he was. What do you mean he wasn't a starter? Yes, he was.
They won a championship too, didn't they?
Yeah. They went 15-0.
Yeah.
Anyway, I'm sorry.
NCAA football. Well, 4 teams are going to make the playoffs. We'll start with you, David.
That's a hard one. It was
designed that way.
If the committee is fair, it'll at least be a minimum of 1 Big Ten team, but hopefully 2, because I think Michigan and Ohio State are clearly at this point. You got to put it this way. At this point, 2 of the top 4 teams in the country right now. So at this point, Michigan, Ohio State, Georgia, and I think the team that you got to kind of look in the corner of your eye it's either TCU or LSU. But you know who it won't be? It will not be Alabama. They're done.
But when they go to that, when they go to 8 teams like you like it, 8 or 12 teams, it will be.
No, I say 12 or 16. I'm not 8.
It would be Alabama. Alabama would be in there, and it'd be frightening.
Maybe it would be Alabama. Maybe not. Maybe not.
What 4 teams are going to make it?
It's going to be Georgia, Ohio State, Tennessee, and TCU. Even though I ain't big on TCU, but they just don't have nobody to play. So they're just going to end up running the table, and they'll be undefeated, and they'll have to throw them in, but there ain't nobody in that conference.
Earl, who do you have?
Oh, boy.
Look at it,
I like Chuck 4. What definitely is not going to be, they're not going to be 2 Big Ten teams.
I agree with him. I agree with you.
Tell you that right there.
So it can't be 2 Big Ten teams. What if Ohio State and Michigan play like an overtime game and it goes?
There cannot be 2 teams. Big Ten.
Like an elimination game.
Yes, there could be 2 teams from the Big Ten. There were 2 teams in the SEC. So just stop it. Just stop, because your East Coast anti-Midwest bias is showing badly.
Explain the scenario where there could be 2 Big Ten teams.
Well, I was wondering what if
you
they
just
have
explained
a tight game.
A close game.
Yeah.
A close game between Michigan and Ohio State, with the winner of that game going on to win the Big Ten. The next best team is the loser of the Michigan-Ohio State. It's easy this year for the Big Ten. There's 2 great teams, Michigan, Ohio State, period.
Well, hold on, David. Hold on now. So let's say USC wins out, and they end up the season 10-1, with the only loss that they had was a 42-43 point. The score was 42-43. If they run the table, they beat UCLA, they beat Notre Dame, then USC got to be considered. And remember, Tennessee and Georgia,
they'll be considered.
Right. So
they'll be considered.
I think
they'll be considered, but the Pac-12
team. If they put your TCU team in, and you're big on that, if they go undefeated,
wait a minute. The Pac-12 is considered, of the Power 5 conferences, it's the 5th conference of the Power 5.
You're weaker than the ACC? You're weaker than the ACC?
Weaker. ACC has won national championships.
I'm talking about this year.
Not this year.
Well, the Pac-12 is not a strong conference, really. Not really. Oregon will always get beat in a big game. Washington gets beat. UCLA has not been anything.
Utah's had a decent year.
USC. Well, let's see what USC does against Notre Dame.
That's exactly right. That's all I'm saying.
Okay, so number 5 is Tennessee at 9-1. Number 6 is LSU 8-2. Number 7, USC 9-1. Number 8, Alabama 8-2. Number 9 is Clemson 9-1. Are there any of those teams?
Not Alabama and Clemson.
That cannot make it.
Alabama and Clemson can't. But Tennessee and USC and could make it.
What about LSU?
If they beat Georgia in the championship game.
LSU's path is to win the championship. They have to win the championship.
They got to beat Georgia in the championship game, right?
Yeah, otherwise they have 3 losses. That'll be too many. You're right.
Well, 2
Some
losses.
Of these games are going to be some of these games are going to be elimination games. And
there's not going to be no 2. There's not going to be no 2-team win. There's not going to be no teams with 2 losses in there either.
Hey, David, real quick, is Michigan and Ohio State in the same side of the Big Ten?
Yes.
Yeah, they're both.
So
they're both Big Ten East.
Right. So that's like a playoff game almost. So the loser of that game.
Well, not necessarily. Remember when when Alabama did not win the SEC, but were and finished second, and got a chance to get in the playoffs and won the whole thing.
They beat LSU. LSU beat them in the regular season, and LSU they beat LSU.
They lost to Georgia in the regular season, and then they beat Georgia in the playoffs.
They did that to LSU too.
Did they? Anyway, we'll see. I think it's interesting, but I just don't see how two. I could be wrong, but I don't see how two teams come out of the Big Ten, just given these other teams.
Well, but why? But why?
Because you only have 4 spots, and if TCU runs the table, we got to put them in. We got to put Georgia in if they win it all.
Right.
Well, the other team would be Tennessee.
We got to put Ohio. If Ohio State beats Michigan or vice versa, we got to put them in.
So it would be between Tennessee, because assuming that they don't lose anymore,
Right?
Tennessee or USC
or USC. Or Michigan.
Tennessee
is
Michigan.
Currently ranked higher.
Well, let me just ask you guys: do you think Michigan can beat USC? There's no question in my mind. This year, Michigan can easily beat USC.
Michigan hasn't shown me that much. Michigan hasn't shown me that much.
Michigan has shown me nothing.
They don't seem as dominant to me. They seem like a good team.
Midwest anti-bias, Earl. Gotcha.
I don't have an anti-bias there. I saw them play Maryland, which that was a real good game, which kind of surprised me. And Maryland is very, very ordinary, and they couldn't put them away.
They don't even have a star player this year. Last year they had that guy who was the number 1 pick.
They got a running back.
Their running back who's from the state of Maryland. He's the one that crushed Maryland.
Oh, is he number 2?
Yeah. He broke off 2 runs on short yardage situations.
It's gonna be fun. It's gonna be interesting, David. We'll see. We'll play this all out, and we'll see what happens.
Okay, we're gonna move on to the NBA, and we're on good schedule so far, fellas. Appreciate you guys keeping the schedule. Who are the top 5 teams in NBA at this moment? This week's rankings.
NBA is so goofy. The NBA is goofy right now.
Well, we have some teams that we're some of the usual teams are not up there.
Golden State.
David, who are your top 5 teams?
Number 1, Milwaukee. Number 2, Boston. Number 3, Memphis. Number 4, Denver. Number 5, Cleveland.
Okay. Earl, who you got?
I'll take David's first 4, and I'm sure I'll take somebody else besides Cleveland. I would take Portland over Cleveland.
Yeah, they might have the best record in the West. I think they do. Chuck, who you got? Who are your top teams?
I have Boston. I have not in this order, but I have Boston, the Bucks, Cleveland, Portland, and Memphis. Boston, Bucks, Cleveland, Portland, Memphis. Although Memphis's record ain't that good.
Yeah,
they're like 8-6 or something like that.
Yeah. Well, I saw them play last night. The Pelicans, and the Pelicans, that was a great game. Great game. Lots of action there.
They're missing. So that's why the NBA is so goofy, because there's so many missing players that are important in some of these teams. And Bane is out for Memphis. And Bane is a big part of that team.
He's out for a couple of weeks.
I know, 4 to 6.
But he just got hurt. He was playing.
Well, I know. Yeah. But
The problem with the NBA is they take days off too much now. I don't know.
Milwaukee played a game last week or the week before where all 5, the starting 5, didn't play.
Golden State did the same thing.
It's crazy.
Yeah, I don't know. Today's players, they don't want to be out there.
One thing I'll say about Michael Jordan, he didn't miss games. He didn't even miss exhibition games.
Most of the players during that era wanted to play, and it's a different mindset now. They want days off.
Yeah, it's interesting.
And speaking of days off,
Wilt Chamberlain played 48 minutes a game.
Right.
48 and a half minutes.
1 year he averaged more than
48 and a half minutes.
That is an unbelievable stat that he literally
1962. 1962.
There was 3 overtime games, and he never missed a game or a minute. That's unbelievable.
And never fouled out.
Averaged 50 points a game that season, too.
And he didn't get the MVP. He came in 3rd or something.
Bill Russell won.
And he averaged 18 points.
But Bill Russell also won the championship, and he averaged 25 rebounds a game.
Exactly.
Regular season award. Yeah. But speaking of people not playing,
Oscar had a triple-double.
Right, but they didn't really. Hey, wait a minute, David. You heard what you just said. The guy averaged 50 points. He never missed a game. He averaged more than 48 minutes a game, and he didn't win the MVP.
Yeah, averaging 50 points is kind of
Come on.
There was an anti-Chamberlain bias at that
60
time.
Minutes should go visit.
He was so big, he couldn't be stopped. They had to change the rules. They weren't always going to vote for Wilt. Wilt was always better technically as a basketball player than Bill Russell, but because he doesn't have 11 championships and only has 2, and he went to the finals 5 times or 6 times, 5 or 6 times, but he only has 2 to show for it. But Bill Russell is supposed to be the best player comparing the 2. Bill Russell would have told you that Wilt Chamberlain was better. He got quotes that Wilt Chamberlain was better. So it's a bias. That's the reason he didn't win the MVP.
I mean, that's what we were thinking. He scored 50 points. He should have been MVP.
Never missed a minute. That's amazing. Never missed a minute.
So
and didn't foul out.
Speaking of people that are not playing, Kyrie Irving. Now I watched Brooklyn play last night, and they got blown out by like 40 points. Durant came out with a statement today saying, name the other 4 starters and him. He said, what do you expect us to do with these guys?
Sounds like a great leader, doesn't he?
Yeah, oh, yeah, you expect us to win just because I'm playing? So Kyrie might come back this weekend. But the question I was going to have for you guys, he was given a 5-game suspension, which should have been over last Sunday. He's still not playing. The Nets have said he must apologize for the posting that he did and condemn the movie that he posted. Donate $500,000 to anti-hate causes, which I thought was a lot until I looked at it. I did the math on his salary. That's just a little more than one game check.
That's pocket change.
Receive sensitivity training. Take training to educate himself on anti-Semitic. I
got it.
Yeah, don't be an anti-Semitic.
Right.
Meet with the ADL and other Jewish leaders, and then meet with the owner and demonstrate his understanding of the issues.
It's a lot.
Is that too much? Is that right? Should they have just suspended him a certain number of games and that be it? What are your thoughts? David, we'll start with you.
Jewish Americans and Jews all over the world have a special place considering everything they've been through. When you start boosting, whether intentionally or even unintentionally, anti-Semitic tropes, even if you're not the author of it, but you're endorsing it somehow with a like, you're not really understanding history, and you're not understanding what needs to be done. Jewish Americans, Jewish people in general, are not to be clowned and insulted. Just can't do that. Period.
So was a penalty too harsh? Could they have just given him like a 10-game suspension and not let him, force him? What good is an apology if he doesn't mean it?
I think what he has to go through is the necessary steps, considering the value of Jewish Americans and Jewish people to the world. Period.
How do you feel about it, Chuck? Too harsh?
If he had just did what he's did finally, which was apologize at the beginning, he wouldn't have had to go through none of this. He wouldn't have done nothing.
You're
he
right.
Wouldn't have been suspended. He's so hard-headed and difficult, and I'm sorry. I don't have any sympathy for the guy. I just don't. And in the words of the great Mr. David Chappelle, when you run these 2 words together, and they are the words that come after it, it's always a problem.
Jews and those people.
Those Jews. Once those 2 words are run together, anything that comes after that, he says he's never seen anything positive that has come after that. So he should have just apologized and move on.
But what about the penalty? I mean,
I think it's too much.
Is too much or not enough?
No, it's too much. I think that whole list that you read down, especially when we know he's not sincere, right?
Well, that's one of the things I was wondering about. Earl, what do you think? Penalty, fine?
I think if that's what they say it's going to take to get him back in, that's what he got to do. Should be running his mouth, saying bad things about people. So
anybody,
whatever you get, that's what you get.
Yeah, I kind of wondered about. I thought maybe they should just go ahead and suspend him 10 games. He could have done that stuff behind the scenes, and then it might have seemed sincere when he went to them. But it's almost like if I make you do this, I'm the Jewish people. Oh, he's going to come and talk to us. It's like, is he sincere about it? His apology, or come to talk to us? Is he just doing that to, get back in the league? They could have just went on.
I think Chuck makes a great point that all Kyrie had to do was apologize right up front. He's a provocateur. He doesn't care. He doesn't care about his teammates. He doesn't care what he says. He doesn't care what he does. I don't care how good a player is. He's very skilled. He has all the basketball skills that 2022 has to offer, but he has a peanut brain.
And I'd still take him for the Lakers.
I wouldn't take him at all. He wouldn't be on that team.
That's how desperate I am.
Well, and they might be desperate now. They got last year. They took the stand. If you don't get vaccinated, we don't want you here as a part-time player. Then they started losing. He was back. Now I'm hearing he's coming back Sunday, and I don't know if he's done any of this stuff. But I kind of think they should have just did 10 or 15 games and that's it. And if he had done that stuff behind the scenes, we decided to reduce it because he did A, B, C, D, and E.
Right.
That's another way of looking at it. Okay, that's all for our agenda. Do we have any closing comments? And start with you, Chuck. Do you have anything?
I do have closing comments.
I'm sure this is going to be good too.
I do have closing comments, and I really want to be serious about this. And I hope I do it some justice, even though I'm concerned about my delivery. So it's been a tough week in the Snowden house, which is nothing compared to how tough it's been at the University of Virginia in Charlottesville. Look, man, 5 people got shot. 3 got killed. Deshaun Perry, Devin Chandler, Lavelle Davis, and the 4th guy who got shot, Mike Hollis, had 2 surgeries yesterday, and we think he's going to be okay. And then the young lady got shot. And a guy who was an ex-football player was the shooter. Now, I got to tell you, these Black kings are getting shot by ourselves, and it's just a sad situation for everybody, for the families, for the university, for the coaches. It's got to stop. The next day, 4 people in Idaho, 4 students at the University of Idaho got killed and murdered. So I just my heart breaks. Charles is in pain. I just feel really bad for the campus because the University of Virginia is a slice of heaven for me. I love that place, and I just feel awful. And I just hope we all can say a prayer up to the families and to the campus at the University of Virginia. They've canceled their football game this Saturday. They got one more game after that against Virginia Tech, and they're going to probably cancel that as well. And it's just horrific, absolutely horrific.
Indeed, a tragedy. Yeah, our hearts and prayers go out to the families of everybody impacted.
Yeah.
David, closing remarks?
I do have a closing remark, and it's about one of the Colts players, one of the great Colts players of recent memory, formerly known as Darius Leonard. He now goes by his actual name, Shaquille Leonard. He's now facing a second back surgery in 5 months. He plays linebacker very ferociously. He's been successful. He's picked up a lot of turnovers, interceptions, and fumble recoveries and forced fumbles. But I fear that he will probably need to retire. You have 2 back surgeries in 5 months, and you're not the same guy, and you play at 215 pounds. I wish him well in life. I hope he doesn't play again.
Yeah, back surgery, even 1 back surgery is tough, and you're talking about 2. Terrible. Earl, any closing remarks?
I just think that they need to put some different people in the replay booths for all these sports industries. Like in football, I mean, you go back, you look at the replay, you see a call was missed, but they still make the wrong call. I'm like, I don't understand what's going on. Why do you have it? If you look, you see it, and you still don't overturn the calls, and it's just like they just need some new people in the replays because a lot of calls are being missed. That's all.
Are we talking about the NFL
Yes.
NFL college. Okay. Well, that's all we have for tonight, ladies and gentlemen. Thanks for tuning in. Once again, thanks to our distinguished panel. You guys did a great job. And we'll sign off here and tune in next week for the next edition of Real Fellas Talk Sports. Take care.
Did a good job, Larry.
All right.
You landed that thing.